This video lecture has been produced using artificial intelligence with the supervision of Belhaven faculty. So, let's talk about school improvement. Where does it really begin? It all starts with a very fundamental question. Who are we? And the answer to that isn't found in a slogan. It's found in data, specifically demographic data. This gives us the essential context for understanding our students, our staff, and our community. So today, we're going to explore how we build that picture. Here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll lay the foundation of why this data is so important. Then, we'll get into the practical side of building a data story. After that, we'll walk through a specific process for analysis, look at how to achieve some deeper insights, and finally, we'll wrap up with some reflection and application. All right, let's dive into section 1. We'll start at the very beginning, with the foundation, understanding the what and the why of demographic data. By the end of our time together, the goal is for you to be able to classify different kinds of demographic data, to really analyze a school's data profile to find strengths and challenges, and to identify the features that tell you if your assessments are actually monitoring effectiveness. So when we say demographics in a school setting, what are we really talking about? Well, it's the statistical characteristics of our population. Things like enrollment numbers, attendance rates, socioeconomic status, graduation rates. But the key here isn't just the numbers themselves. It's that they establish our current context and, maybe more importantly, they help us see trends so we can predict and plan for the future. Okay, knowing what demographics are is the first step. But how do you take that data and build a meaningful story with it? That brings us to section 2, how to gather and organize your data comprehensively. Now, I know this slide looks like a lot, and it is, but this framework from Victoria Bernhardt is incredibly powerful. It shows us that to understand a school, we have to look far beyond just student test scores. Notice the categories here. We have community data, like economic conditions. We have school data, student data, of course, but also staff data, like experience levels and turnover, and even parent data. Why is this so crucial? Well, because a single data point in isolation doesn't tell you much. But when you see, for example, that teacher turnover is rising at the same time local unemployment is going up, you start to see a much bigger, more connected story. That's the power of this comprehensive approach. So, you've gathered all this information from all those domains. What do you do with it? You build a data profile. You can think of this as the book that tells your school's story. It organizes everything: demographics, perceptions, learning outcomes, and processes, all in one place. And a really important point here, a good story isn't just a snapshot. You need at least 3 to 5 years of data to really see the plot develop. That's how you identify the trends that matter. Having the story is one thing, but reading it correctly is another. So section 3 is all about a process for analysis, because without a structured, collaborative approach, data can just be noise. This process is very intentional, and this starts with 2 key steps. First, and this is so important, each staff member reviews the data independently. This step is critical because it prevents groupthink and allows for individual reflection. You note your own observations on strengths, challenges, and implications first. Then you move to step 2, which is sharing those initial thoughts in a small group. This structure makes sure every voice is part of the conversation from the very beginning. And from those small groups, the process starts to scale up. In step 3, all those different observations are brought together to build a large group consensus. Then, the really interesting part, in step 4, you look for the commonalities. What implications are showing up again and again? What themes are emerging across the board? And finally, step 5 is about aggregation. You take those recurring commonalities and create a final focus list of priorities. This is how you move from a mountain of data to a clear data-driven action plan. All right, we have our process. Now in section 4, let's go a little deeper. We're going to look at a couple of concepts that help us refine our analysis and pull out much more nuanced insights. It's really important to distinguish between static and dynamic data. Think of static data as a snapshot. It's a single picture from one moment in time. It can be useful, but it really lacks context. Dynamic data, on the other hand, is like a movie. It shows you the picture over weeks, months, or even years. And that's where you can truly start to see relationships and trends unfold. This leads us to what is, frankly, one of the most powerful tools we have for ensuring equity: disaggregation. The concept is simple. It's breaking down your overall data into subgroups, by race, by gender, by socioeconomic status. Why is this so vital? Because a school's overall average might look perfectly fine, but that average can hide huge disparities. Disaggregation allows us to see which specific groups of students are thriving and which might be getting left behind. It helps us ensure that our programs and processes are truly equitable for everyone. So, we've walked through the what, the how and the why of demographic data. Now we come to what I believe is the most important part, the reflection and application. This is where we connect these ideas back to our own work and our own schools. Let's just pause here for a moment and really synthesize what we've covered. I want to pose these questions, and I encourage you to genuinely think about them in your own context. First, what are demographic data really? Why are they the absolute foundation for continuous school improvement? Think about your own setting. Do you have easy access to this information? Why is that school data profile so essential for telling an accurate story? And who needs to know that story? Who are the stakeholders? And finally, let's return to this last point. What is the crucial difference between aggregating and disaggregating data? And why is understanding that distinction so absolutely vital for achieving equity? To keep building on these ideas, your next steps are to watch the 2B lecture, complete the assigned readings and writing, and of course, engage with these questions in the discussion forums. And finally, all of the concepts we've discussed today are grounded in significant research, particularly the work of Victoria Barnhart. Thank you for your time and attention.